A History of Roman Britain, Part 2. Hey guys, if you haven't seen Part 1, I will leave a link in the description. I would recommend that you watch that first. Okay, so after quashing Boudicca's rebellion in 61 AD, Rome had a solid control over the south of England. But if we know anything about our beloved Romans, we know that they were never satisfied with a conquest unfinished. The native Britons had never experienced warfare like what the Romans had to offer. They were well equipped, well disciplined, professional soldiers who trained full time. It must have been a daunting time to be a native during this period. These advanced machine-like men in armour, landing on your shores and defeating you even with smaller numbers. They set up camps, they had scouts, and they could march in formation for 13 miles every single day and then set up a new camp. The Roman army was a war machine, especially for its time. Now, the Romans gradually extended their influence northward, pushing the frontiers of the Roman Empire deeper into the heart of Britain. The most notable campaign was led by Gnaeus Julius Agricola, who was appointed to govern Britain in 77 AD. Agricola's campaigns marked a period of vigorous military activity aimed at subduing the northern tribes and bringing the entirety of Britain under Roman rule. Agricola was an experienced and capable commander who believed that the key to securing Britain lay in extending Roman influence as far north as possible, and he wasn't wrong. He launched a series of successful campaigns against the tribes in Wales, the Pennines, and up into Scotland. By 80 AD, Agricola had reached the territory of the Caledonian tribes, which is now what we call Scotland. The Romans called Scotland Caledonia. His forces won a decisive victory at the Battle of Mons Graupus in 83 AD, effectively breaking the power of the Caledonian resistance and opening the door to further Roman expansion. They were almost there. Agricola was a genius and was all but certain to conquer the entire land, subdue the natives, and over the next couple of decades Rome could have slowly withdrawn its military presence and left Britain as a tax-paying subsidiary of the Roman Empire. However, Agricola had a small problem which we've all experienced at one point. His boss was a jealous, petulant child. Emperor Domitian, who featured as a dishonourable mention in my Rome's top 5 craziest emperors list, was becoming increasingly jealous of Agricola, and in a similar way to what Emperor Tiberius did to Germanicus, Domitian recalled Agricola to Rome. This meant that the Romans had to fight off Scottish rebellion for another 325 years, because one man's ego couldn't take that another man was better at his job than he was. Scotland became such a problem for the Romans that Emperor Adrian had to build a giant wall to keep them out of his empire. The wall was built between 122 and 128 AD, and Adrian's wall was a massive stone and turf fortification that stretched approximately 73 miles from east to west. 73 miles, that is a crazy, crazy distance. It's like running 3 marathons. The wall was not merely a defensive structure, but it was also a statement of Roman power and authority. It was a lot bigger back in the day than what it is today. It marked the northern limit of the Roman Empire in Britain and served as a means to control movement across the frontier, regulate trade, and demonstrate the might of Rome to the northern tribes. The wall was dotted with forts, mile castles, and turrets, garrisoned by auxiliary troops who patrolled the frontier and kept watch of any incursions. The wall had also had a lasting effect on the island, as it still does to this day. We still see south of the wall as England and north of the wall as Scotland. The popular HBO series Game of Thrones was heavily influenced by English history, and The Wall from the show was based on Hadrian's Wall, with civilization on one side and the barbarians to the other. Now, personally, as a Manchester United fan, I quite like the Scottish. But that is how people living in Roman Britain and later medieval England would have started to view the Scottish, as they were separated from the rest of the world, the barbarians to the north, which would never have been the case before the Romans. They would have all seen themselves as different tribes, but similar. They're all a Celtic people. The Romans did make further attempts to conquer Scotland, or Caledonia as they called it, during the reign of Emperor Antonius Pius. In approximately 142 AD, the Romans advanced beyond Hadrian's Wall and constructed a new frontier, the Antonine Wall. This wall, however, was less substantial than Hadrian's Wall and was abandoned just 2 decades afterwards due to the pressures of maintaining a defence so far from the established Roman heartland with harsh terrain and the resistance of the Celts and the Picts. The withdrawal to Hadrian's Wall marks the limit of Roman ambition in Britain. While the Romans continued to conduct occasional military campaigns in Scotland, they never attempted to properly conquer the region again. Life in Roman Britain was interesting. The Romans built towns, or civitas as they called them, which the natives had never seen before, with forums, baths, temples, basilicas, aqueducts and roads to connect them. The most prominent civitas were Londinium, which was London, Eboracum, which was York, and let's see if I can pronounce it correctly this time. Here we go. Camulodunum, which is Colchester. The Roman presence brought about significant changes to the daily lives of the Britons. Roman law, language, which was Latin, and customs began to permeate society, particularly in the towns and cities where Roman influence was strongest. The rural areas would have maintained a lot of their native cultures and traditions. The economy flourished as the Romans introduced new agricultural techniques, built an extensive networks of roads to connect people, and fostered trade with the wider empire itself. People in Britain would now have been trading with Turkey, Africa, all over the place. Local elites, eager to gain favour with the Roman rulers, adopted Roman dress, manners and even religion, with many Britons converting to the Roman pantheon of gods. The Romans also introduced new forms of art, architecture and craftsmanship, blending the native traditions to create a unique Romano-British culture. So there you have it, guys. That's part 2. We're going to do part 3 soon. I bet you can't wait for part 3, can you? Part 3 is going to be about the Roman decline in Britain, now they left. Please leave a like and subscribe and a comment. Leave a comment. Come on, I always respond to my comments. Thank you very much and take care.